You are listening to the Adapt Performance podcast, where we aim to make elite level strength and conditioning accessible to everybody. I'm your host, Jordan Webster, and let's get into the episode. Yes, guys, what is going on? So in today's podcast, I want to talk to you about 5 of the most common mistakes that people make in season, which causes them to lose sprint speed. Okay. And, why does this matter? Look, it matters from a performance and an injury standpoint. Being faster and having more sprint speed in the tank gives you a greater ability to be useful as a player to your team. Okay, you can score more often. You can support your other teammates that are going to be scoring. This applies to rugby, American football, hockey, whatever the thing is. Like, sprinting is a good thing to do. It also is going to be really good from an injury standpoint. Okay, if you sprint regularly, you are building up resiliency in the tissues, the hamstrings, the calf, etc., so that it has a tolerance to that, so that when you do have to open up in a game, it's fine because it's been there before. The body adapts to stimuli that you put on it. It adapts to training. So if you've never been in a situation or you've never been at a particular speed before, you could be playing with a little bit of fire by being in that situation without having prior experience there. So you need to be sprinting. You need to be sprinting outside of your sport. But also, another reason why it's so important is speed drop-off is a thing. So I would much rather be a super fast player, and then by the time it's my 50th sprint of the day, I'm only a fast player, rather than being somebody who's slow. You're not suddenly going to get faster as the game goes on. It's only going to deteriorate. So you want to push up that ceiling as much as possible, okay? Which just gives you a greater ability to be useful. So in terms of a little bit of context around why I'm doing this is, look, I've had a few questions from rugby guys that follow me online around how to combat this. I've also had players in the past that, struggle with losing a little bit of speed during the in-season period. So I wanted to give a little bit of context on, why that might happen. Why might you lose a little bit of sprint speed? And also give you some strategies in terms of how to combat it. Okay. So I think the first thing to say, I'm going to give you 5, and I think stay tuned for all these, because I think these are all really important, and it's not as simple as do this one exercise. Well, to an extent it might be, but so the first one I want to give you is the reason why you're potentially losing speed in season is because you are not sprinting, right? No duh, Captain Obvious, one of them ones, right? Okay, it is the simplest answer there, but you're probably not sprinting as often as you was in the off season. So you're going to be, let's say in the off season you had it as your goal. I want to get faster. I want to get faster. Okay, you can attribute 2 sessions a week to sprinting. You might be in the gym 2, 3, 4 times a week. Probably not playing your sport all that much, because of the off season. So you're super fresh. Okay, fatigue is going to be low. You're going to be in the mood for sprinting. When you get into the actual season, obviously you're getting more contact. If we're talking about rugby or American football, you're going to be getting hit a lot more often. You're going to be getting run into the ground a little bit in some of your actual training sessions for the sport. And as a result, what we tend to find is you start sprinting less, okay? One, because of logistics, like it's really hard to fit that in the week sometimes. But also you might just not feel like it because you've already been on feet a couple times, right? So you're sprinting less, okay? And look, there's a few ways of combating this, right? It's, for me, standalone sprinting sessions are a good option if you have the time in your week. But if we think about rugby, we'll use rugby as an example here. If you're training Tuesday night, you're training Thursday night, and then you've got a game on a Saturday, you don't have loads and loads of opportunity for standalone sprint sessions, in my opinion there. But my preference is definitely to do it pre-training, to be honest with you. So get to rugby training 20 to 30 minutes before your rugby training, and give us some sprints, right? Give us some super high quality sprints before you get absolutely hammered in the training session. And what I usually do is characterize this on Tuesday. I'm going to do more of an acceleration and change direction based sprint session, 20, 30 minutes, where it's short distances, like 5 meters, 10 meters, that type of thing, working on your first couple of steps. And then you get into the rugby training session feeling, probably a little bit on fire, to be honest with you. You'll probably feel better than all the other guys that have just rocked up because they've just finished work. Logistically, it's a little bit of a nightmare sometimes, and it might not be possible, but I do really like it as an option. And if you've listened to previous episodes with Harry Wright and Jake, you will know that, I'm kind of a fan of this, and so are a lot of other people. So Tuesday, I would go acceleration and change direction. Then Thursday, I tend to do some max velocity stuff, which is longer duration, longer distances, 30 to 40 meters, a little bit of build-up sprint. So give yourself some 20, 30 meters to build up some speed, and then try and maintain that. So kind of a fly type movement. And you're not going to do as many reps, okay? But the objective is that you are getting some high intensity sprint work in. Okay, we'll go in 100%. We're really trying to get faster. If you can't get it in that time and you can't get it during the rugby session, before the rugby session, have a little think during the rugby session. Am I actually hitting top speed? Am I actually going 100%? Am I actually rested in between sprints, in between plays or whatever you're doing? You might actually be hitting a little bit of, pure sprint work in your training session, but it doesn't happen a lot. So if you don't, what I would do is when the training session finishes, give yourself a little bit of rest, give yourself 5-10 minutes, make sure you don't go cold, and then give us a good few reps of opening up, just to make sure that you are still getting sprint work. I don't love doing it on a Monday or a Wednesday or a Friday, to be honest with you, because I think it's just too close, because then you're going to end up with 3 days back to back of being on feet, and we can't always control how your body's going to feel with that. So I don't like it. Tuesday and Thursday, that's what I go for, is the low tech answer. If you want to get some GPS, we can start being a little bit more specific in terms of what you're achieving from a sprint speed perspective and what thresholds we need to try and hit. But that's the number one, right? Is when we get in season, it gets really hard to get sprint work in. So you need to be pretty disciplined with it, but life happens, work happens. It is what it is, but you need to try and get some stuff in any way. Okay. So that's number one is, look, you've been getting lack of sprint work in. That might be one of the reasons why you're losing speed and how to solve it. All right. Let's look at the second option, or the second reason that I see this happening, and it's overtraining. Yes, guys, what is going on? Quick break in today's episode for me to remind you about ADAPT's online strength and conditioning coaching. Our mission really is to make elite level strength and conditioning accessible to everybody. And our service does exactly that. So you get access to everything: an elite level coach, physiotherapist, psychologist, nutritionist, a community to keep you engaged. Ultimately, what we're trying to do is give you everything you would ever need in order for you to achieve your goals. So if that is something that you are curious about, get in contact and we'll just have a no pressure chat where I explain everything, find out a little bit more about you, and we can decide whether you are a good fit for our program. Okay, without further ado, let's get back into the episode. Cheers. Okay. Sprint speed is super sensitive to fatigue. Okay. If you have a shit night's sleep or you're really sore, you're not going to give your best on a sprint effort. It's just not going to happen. It will be affected. Fatigue, soreness, all those things. It really does affect your brain's ability to communicate with the muscles. The neuromuscular system is hindered a little bit because of those things. Don't get me wrong. You can sometimes turn it around with a good hit of caffeine and some music and some competitiveness. You can get close. However, the fatigue side of things is pretty paramount when we're thinking about speed. Fatigue is the enemy of speed. So we need to be on top of that. So if we think about overtraining in season, the reason why this might happen, why I might overtrain is, look, if you're getting 3 big rugby loads per week, a Tuesday, a Thursday, and a Saturday, so that's a lot, right? It's a lot, and it's contact as well. So that contact is going to have an impact on your body and how it feels and how the body is trying to make sure you don't fall to pieces. So you've got 3 big exposures there, but you'll probably, if you're anything like any of the rugby lads I know, you're probably still trying to lift heavy. Okay. You're probably still trying to gain some muscle. You're still trying to get the rig of your dreams. You're still trying to really push things forward. And it's a really delicate balance, because by lifting super heavy or going high volume or really having an inability to adjust to how you're actually feeling and not actually changing your schedule from off season into an in-season schedule, you're probably shooting yourself in the foot here. And it's tricky, because I get it. We all want to do everything. I want to play my best rugby, but I also want to build the most amount of muscle. I want to be speedy. I want to be strong. I want to have the fitness tank that, I've always wanted. You probably can't do it all at once, and you need to be cleverer in terms of your yearly schedule, in terms of how you attack this, right? But overtraining is a big one, okay? And what kind of comes into that is look, the overtraining side is, okay, are you just applying too much stimuli either, intensity or volume wise across a week. So that includes rugby and whatever else you're doing. So the actual training itself is going to kind of dig you into a little bit of a hole. But recovery is a big part of overtraining as well. Okay. Are you sleeping well? Are you getting 7, 8, 9 hours per night of good quality? I've actually started, how long have I been taking this now? But magnesium supplementation has been awesome. Okay. Just get it from Amazon. Drop me a message if you want to know which one I'm taking. But that's been super good at making me sleep better. Okay. It doesn't really affect the duration, but when I actually do get to sleep, wow, do I feel rested? 100%. So I would recommend it. It's not super expensive either. So I'm probably going to take magnesium for the rest of my life. Not that I'm an addict. I could quit any time. But I will rob somebody's house and sell the TV just to get some more magnesium, I'm sure. So yeah, like recovery is a huge part of the overtraining piece, and you just need to be careful. Like you just need to be on top of this. Protein consumption, obviously keep that super high. I aim for 2.5 grams of protein per kilo of body weight. It's a lot, don't get me wrong. It's not easy to get, and you do need to plan and prepare. You need to make sure you're hydrated. You need to make sure that your overall nutrition is decent. All those things impact your recovery. Stress levels, okay? We know the story with this, right? But there we are. Like overtraining is a big cause of it. Like I think a lot of the reason people get slower in season is, sorry to say, but probably down to your own actions with it. Your inability to be flexible with the body that you've got in season. So that's number 2, right? And how do we solve it? I've kind of mentioned that, but I think you just need to find yourself an in-season schedule which supports where you're at. And it might change during the season as well. Like you might start off with a certain schedule which works well, but then uni pops up and then you're like, fuck, I've got a different class timetable. Or you get moved position, or work life is different, but you need a good in-season schedule which allows you to be at your best so you can sprint well, okay? The other thing is just making sure, look, outside of rugby and outside of training, you need to be recovering properly. Okay. I'm not going to hammer that one into the ground, but I think it's super important and you need to really kind of, consider those things. Okay. Number 3, the toll of injuries. Okay. You're all probably smiling thinking, yeah, that's a bit of me, that. Yeah, it's a bit of me as well. Okay. The impact of injuries during a season, because you're going to get them. You're going to get little knocks, little dead legs. You're going to get, a shoulder injury. Your neck doesn't feel great. You got some mini whiplash or a stinger. Your ankle's sore. Okay. Those little things are obviously a part of the sport. We're not going to be able to change it. But those little things do add up, right? Because there's a few things that happens there. If you roll your ankle and it takes you 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks to get into a place where it feels 100% again, okay, well, you've actually had 4, 5, 6 weeks of probably suboptimal sprint mechanics, okay, if you've still been sprinting. If you haven't been sprinting, you're also going to have suboptimal sprint mechanics, plus the physical quality is going to be hampered. You're not going to have the same amount there. Okay. So it's going to take you a little bit of time to build up. Even things like a shoulder, it just affects your arm swing. You get a little bit of a back tweak. Okay. You can't rotate as well. So the mechanical side is huge, but the toll of the injuries, I just think it impacts your ability to get good quality sprint sessions in, of course, but also good quality gym sessions in. Okay. So what you sometimes see, if you used to plot somebody's strength levels in, pick any exercise, let's go with a squat. Okay. We want to see that squat is maintaining throughout the season and hopefully building a little bit, right? And it's tricky, but what happens is when you get less strong, when you lose strength during the season, it will be, not a great thing for power, because we want you to be able to produce force quickly in a sprint position. So if you're less strong, you're probably going to have less there, okay? So essentially you're getting less physical as a result of these little impacts of the injuries. So less power, you're going to miss training days, and that's not always great, okay? And it's tricky, what do you do in order to minimize your injuries? Let's go with that question. What do we do to, reduce the chances of you getting an injury? Well, the first thing is look, you're going to get a few, okay? It's let's set expectations there. You are going to get injured at some point in your life. If you don't want to, don't play rugby. But even then, my nana doesn't play sports. She's still injured, right? You're going to fall off a ladder. You're going to trip over a curb. At least you're doing something you love. This is the price, right? But what do we do then with the actual injuries? This is where you need to be really, really good at changing your training. Okay. You need to make sure that if you've got a plan A and plan A doesn't work anymore because you've rolled your ankle, you've hurt your knee, you've got a bit of tendonitis, you need to make plan B as close to plan A as possible. You need to adapt. You need to be really good at figuring out a way of still applying a good quality stimulus that gets you to the overall goal. Okay. This is where, I'm super biased here, but I do this for a career. I spend all day thinking about it. This is where having an S&C coach to draw upon for their experience, and how do we actually still apply the same stimulus with different resources. You've got a different body, you've got different restrictions. That's where, we come into our own. This is like our bread and butter. So I'd just recommend getting a coach. Obviously, no surprises for that answer, but you just need to find a way of still getting good quality stimulus. Sorry, just have a drink of water. Cool. So that's number 3 is the toll of injuries, the impact of injuries as you're going to get them. You just need to be really good at adapting, honestly, and just push. Well, maybe not push through it. You don't want to push through injuries and just be like, I need to sprint. If your body is, not in a situation to do that, because you can use in-gym exercises as a way of bridging that gap. The same. We have a lot of guys that just don't have access to a good rugby field, a good field in general, because the terrain's terrible, therefore they can't get good exposure. So we have to figure out more creative ways of still getting it. And you can get so fast in a variety of ways. But yeah, there we go. So the toll of injuries is a big one, and it's super common, and it could be one of the reasons that you are potentially losing speed in season. The other one I want to follow on from that, how do we reduce injuries, right? Look, strength training itself is protective, okay? It improves the strength and robustness of the whole body, bones, ligaments, tendons, muscle, okay? Lifting weights is going to make you more robust to injuries. You will get injured less as a result, okay? And does it mean you'll never get injured? No, okay? But having a good strength and conditioning program that supports your goals is paramount, right? And there's a lot that goes into it, and it is different for every single person based on your injury history and how long you've been training. But you've got to have a program that's built specifically for you, and that's going to be huge. That's the way you're going to reduce it. Okay. Number 4, undertraining. Okay, so kind of the other side of the coin from overtraining that I spoke about before. And usually find that there's 2 people. There's the overtrainers. There's the people that want to constantly make progress and really push it and burn the candle at both ends, because they want to play the best rugby, but they want to do the best gym. They want to be the best, aesthetically. They want to, all that. They overtrain. You've then got the undertraining guys that have an amazing off season and pre-season, but once they get in season, kind of fall apart a little bit. They've got 3 rugby per week, and they start to not be able to give the time and the attention towards the additional training to really support their rugby goals. Okay. They start not getting as many gym sessions in, life throws curveballs at them, work, relationships, holidays, etc. We all have it, right? And it's tricky. So some people really struggle to kind of make that time. If you've got kids, then fucking bless you. Like, in terms of like from a training perspective, it's going to be really difficult. So, it's figuring out ways. But you do find undertraining throughout a season is what will happen is your physicality will gradually reduce. Okay. That's not great, because your strength is going to decrease. You might lose muscle mass. Okay. Your power is going to be down. So multiple reasons why you're going to lose speed. You're also going to be a little bit more fragile at the end of a season because you are weaker. Okay. You are a little bit more made of glass because of that. Okay. So you need to be aware of it. I think, look, what would be the amount of training sessions that I would say is like a minimum? Look, if you can give us 2 good strength and conditioning sessions a week on top of your rugby, we'll be doing all right. Will more be more beneficial? Yeah. I think 3 is kind of our number that I really like. 2 minimum, 3 good. 4, okay. We're going to start making progress in different areas. But when you get to 4, you need to start thinking about, what is the impact of one session on the next a little bit more? Are we putting too much into it? So we just need to be creative, and we just need to, make sure that it's appropriate for you. But undertraining is a thing, we need to make sure your physicality stays hot. And the final one, another reason why you might be losing speed in season, weight change, okay? Body composition change. And this is one that I don't think people think about a lot, to be honest with you. But if you're going through the season, okay, and you are gaining weight, you need to sprint and carry that additional weight. So if you was literally just to go out and go for a sprinting session with an extra 5 kilo in your pocket, you would feel the difference. You'd feel like you're stuck in the mud. You haven't got as much pop. You're not lifting off the ground as much. You're not accelerating forward as much. It's tough, right? Okay. So if you're gaining 5 kilo of fat, you're going to struggle in order to maintain that sprint speed. But also, if you're gaining 5 kilo of muscle, not that that's going to happen in one season, by the way, that's definitely not going to happen in one season unless you're brand new to training or you're on gear. But yeah, 5 kilos or any kilos, to be honest with you, of muscle isn't always going to be super supportive of your sprinting goals straight away. Obviously, muscle has the benefit of being a contractile tissue. It means that it does have the potential to propel you forward a little bit more, but it doesn't always translate like that straight away. It's not like, okay, if I gain a kilo of muscle, I'm going to accelerate forward an extra 30 centimeters per stride. That's just not how it works. And it is individual to every person, but just being aware that weight change, particularly weight gain during a season, isn't always positive. And this is where, it's tricky, because if your rugby club in particular, or American football club, is quite boozy, you're going to have an element of like slow and steady weight gain. It's death by 1,000 paper cuts type of situation. It's not going to be one sudden jolt of boozing that's going to fuck you up, but it's the 2 pints you have 3 times a week plus some wings on the way home. It's those little things that are going to add up that's going to kind of manifest into additional weight gain. So you need to be aware of it. I'm not saying weight gain is the worst thing in the world. I don't know who you are, but it's definitely going to have an impact, right? There's no way it's not. It's the law of physics. But the other side of this coin, right, and it sounds like, okay, you're just presenting problems for me here, bro, is actually losing weight, right? Losing weight is, even though, I just said to you, if you carry more additional weight, you've got to carry that when you sprint, of course, okay? Losing weight, okay, particularly if you're losing body fat, can be pretty good, okay, because you're carrying less fat that that doesn't contract. That's not a good way of being fast if you're being overweight, okay. So that's something to think about. Like, are you carrying additional kilos around the midsection, right? But it does have benefits, and I'm thinking, look, the body fat thing is really good in contact sometimes. Like, if you're taking repeated tackles, like, you probably don't want to be super, super lean, to be honest with you. I don't think that's going to be great for you. I think you'll start to see a little bit of a negative slope there in terms of performance. I do think you'd get injured a little bit more. But anyway, going back to the thing of like losing weight, it does have benefits in terms of speed, providing that the weight that you are losing is mostly fat. And just being aware that if you are losing weight, that if you're losing muscle as well, okay, even though you're carrying less, you're probably going to have less muscle, which means you're producing less force potentially, which means you're potentially producing less power. So losing muscle, you just need to be aware of that balance there. It's not going to be something that's like an instant fix for you, but you'll probably know. Like, we all probably have a rough gauge of where we're sat at from a body composition standpoint, whether you're, reasonably lean, athletic, a little bit overweight potentially, or, pretty out of shape. It's worth considering those things. And just having an awareness of what that impact is on your sprint performance. Okay. So weight change is just one of those things you need to keep on top of for me. I think there is a little bit of an optimal for a lot of people where you feel the best, you feel like you're your best self, you're playing well, you're training well, you're fueling yourself enough to really have great sessions, and you're recovering good. But equally, you're doing enough stuff outside of just pure training where you have enough of a social life to be well-rounded as a person, and you're taking care of self-care and all those things, which we know are super important. Okay. So look, there's your 5, right? There's some of the reasons you might be losing speed in season. Okay. So just to recap those real quick: lack of sprint speed, overtraining, the toll of injuries, undertraining, and then weight change. And there'll be some more, 100% there'll be some more. And it's all kind of dependent on you as an athlete and how you're kind of put together. But there's some that I've definitely noticed, and these are not simple solves sometimes. Like, you need to kind of figure out what the nitty gritty of it is and how we put something together to really come out on top of this. So all that, right, take it away, have a little think about it. Contact me if you have any questions on it. I'm all for just kind of throwing you a bit of advice. If there's anything I can help with there, I'll send you a couple of voice notes. But just a kind of final kind of plug, if you are looking for S&C coaching, give us a shout, right? This is our bread and butter. This is what we do. We work with contact athletes, combat athletes. We help you get fitter, faster, stronger to support you in your sport. You're going to get injured less. If you're currently injured, we have a physiotherapist on hand that we integrate within your program to make sure that you are getting healed as quick as possible, right? This is what we do. But if not, if you don't want an S&C coach, then I still hope that you have found value in this podcast. Okay, go listen to previous episodes, and I'm sure you'll kind of find some value there as well, I would hope. But yeah, as always, give me a shout if you've got any questions. If you could do us a favor, just leave us a little bit of a review on this podcast as well. That'd mean the world. It helps the podcast grow. So yeah, absolutely good stuff. See you soon, guys. Hope you have a great day. Okay, that is the end of today's episode, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed that. If you did, please do let us know and then share it with somebody who may find this episode interesting. Okay, see you next time. Cheers.